Exactly. All right. Well, we're going to hit time. We got a few more people joining us, and
Right.
all right.
Welcome, welcome.
Yeah. So I will go ahead and just welcome everybody and give you a little intro, and then you may take it away. So,
Okay. Super.
all right. Okay. So welcome everyone. It's hit the 4 o'clock bell, or 3 o'clock. We're Western folks that have joined us. We're very pleased to do this math high quality instructional materials series. And we started with an introductory yesterday, and now we've got our first group that's going to present, and that's Bridges in Mathematics. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and give you a little background, and they will be lovely joining with some of our Scottsbluff friends to share what they've been doing in their program so far. So I'm just going to let you take it away and share with our great educators in Nebraska. So thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for hosting us and for inviting us to the party, the math party, right? So I'm Pia Hansen, and I actually live in Cheyenne, Wyoming, so not that far from the Nebraska border. I am a 27-year classroom teacher, and I was laughing earlier that nothing prepared me for this kind of fall experience for our students. So I'm learning as well. I was a math coach, also had a chance to be an author on the 3rd grade Bridges for First Edition. And I'm also a proud grandmother. These are my 3 sweethearts. They go to school in Pine Bluffs, and Kennedy started kindergarten. So Heather, there she is, my little redheaded spirit. And Kale started 4th grade. And I can't believe Caitlin is almost as tall as I am, and she's starting 7th grade. So I'm seeing the world from their perspective now, which has been a very exciting opportunity for me to get grounded again in what we're doing for children. So I'm a lifelong learner, and like I said, I am in the midst of it right now because of all the distance learning challenges, right? So let's go ahead and get started. A little bit about the Math Learning Center. So the Math Learning Center is a nonprofit math publisher, and all we do is math education. So we're not trying to publish resources for all the different content areas. We're focused on math. And our company was actually founded on the National Science Foundation grant. 3 math educators based their work on classroom experiences and focused on visual models and problem solving. So our mission is to inspire and enable individuals, teachers and children, to discover their mathematical confidence. We believe that all people are math learners or math people. Sometimes I think we hear from people, oh, I'm not a math person, but we think they are. So the Math Learning Center has developed several programs over the last few years or decades. We have the pre-K grade 5 curriculum, and we also have intervention. So we can target intervention for RTI and MTSS, thinking about supporting our students that might be struggling. So we also have a lot of free resources available on our open mathlearningcenter.org site, including math apps, lessons and publications, university program, and math education scholarships. So I want to dig into the daily structure, how the program is organized. So we have some time that's dedicated to problems and investigations and workplaces. We're going to ask teachers to set aside about 60 minutes. And then we also have a component called Number Corner, which is essential to the Bridges program. And we're going to ask teachers to set aside about 15-20 minutes for that. So we're well within the NCTM recommendation for a 90-minute math block. Of course, kindergarten and 1st grade teachers often start the year with about 45 minutes in the unit work and about 10 minutes with number corner. And as we're building stamina, we have a chance to extend the learning and conversations with our whole group lessons. So we'll take a closer look at each of these three components, but let's take a look at a little bit of the structure. So every grade level has 8 instructional units, and the 8th unit at each grade level is a little bit of a STEM unit. So we integrate science and technology with engineering. So first graders might be making paper gliders and measuring the length of their flying airplanes. And then we have marble rolls in second grade, building bridges in third, a playground design experience for our fourth graders, and solar design for our fifth graders. So students have a chance to engage in the integration, sort of a culmination of all of their learning, and we love those projects. So there are 8 instructional units. Every unit has 20 sessions. So we've written the curriculum for about 160 days of instruction. So the teachers receive hard copies of their teacher guide, and they also get manipulatives, enough materials, charts, decks of cards, game board spinners, those sorts of things for about 30 children in a class. But they also have access to the materials on the Bridges Educator site. And the Educator site is our online portal. And I'll show you the resources that we have there in just a little bit. So each grade level also has consumable books, and those are provided for our Bridges, our core instruction, also for Number Corner. And then we also have an optional home connection book. And districts can purchase those books as a consumable, or they can print them on demand. It would be their choice. So let's take a look at a Bridges classroom. What would it look and sound like, right? So students are active learners. We want to make sure that they're doing the math. And we really believe in flexible grouping, that we want students to be in a heterogeneous group and also homogeneous groups, but we want them to be flexible, so not tracking, right? We want them to be able to discuss and debate problems and critique the reasoning of others and defend their own ideas, their own models and strategies. A friend of mine was saying one time that we didn't want to have a risk-free environment. We wanted to have a risk-safe environment. And that really stuck with me, that it needs to be a safe place for students to take risks, right? And they're going to have a chance to collaborate with one another. And so what does it look and sound like? In the teacher guide, in the first unit, there is a grade level introduction for teachers. It'll give you sort of an overview of the curriculum and the structure and components, and then kind of tuck in what are the big ideas, what are the essential curriculum standards that we want to make sure that students can do, right, and understand, do with understanding. So we also want to be sure that we emphasize the mathematical models, the visual models that we know create equity and access for all of our students, including our English language learners, right? So problems and investigations, remember those were the whole group sessions. So what do they look and sound like? So they're usually a period of independent work, like problem setting, and then students get a chance to think about it privately, pair share, and then we come back together as a whole group, and the teacher artfully sort of selects and sequence whose work they're going to share to move the thinking of others, right? So we want to make sure that students have a chance to process the big ideas before we get to solving the problems. Each session includes a summary, like what are some of the big ideas that are going to happen today, and then thinking about a materials list, What materials do you need to provide for students? So decks of cards, game boards, spinners. One of the other things that I think is particularly powerful is our focus on content vocabulary. So what words do we want to make sure that the teacher is modeling in their precise language and presentation? And then we want the students to be able to practice that language. And we'll speak a little bit more about that emphasis in an actual lesson. So each session offers some dialogue, action steps, and a little bit of back and forth between students and teachers. And we find that that's helpful, especially if you're new to a grade level or new to teaching math maybe this year. And maybe you're not sure what students are going to say. So we want to provide the teachers with some key questions that will move the thinking of others and get to that cognitive demand that will deepen their understanding. And we also provide icons for support and for challenge, and also suggestions for working with our language learners. And I would argue that all of our primary students are language learners because they're learning the language of school, right? So we want to make sure that we have an opportunity to support our teachers. One of the teachers I coached told me a few years ago, I'm a better teacher and I'm a better math teacher because of the way the sessions are written. And it's like ongoing professional learning for us. So sometimes people say that it's scripted, but it's not scripted in terms of a rigid, you must wait for a child to say this particular answer, but it's a conversation to help teachers understand what the math talk might look and sound like. So I mentioned earlier how important our visual models are. And I think we've seen from Joe Bowler's work at UCubed in Stanford University, how important that visual representation is in terms of, again, equity and access for all of our children. So we want to make sure that we're starting with concrete materials in the hands of the children, and then moving to that representational and abstract understanding. And again, those opportunities to move flexibly between those stages help us differentiate and meet the needs of our students. So I mentioned earlier workplaces. That's where I felt the lion's share of my differentiation could happen. So during my whole group lesson, I was asking questions and I was watching to see what students were doing. But because I was teaching whole group, I couldn't necessarily slow the lesson down or speed it up to meet all the needs of the children in the classroom at the same time. So what I loved about workplaces were those opportunities for developmentally appropriate, engaging opportunities to focus on key skills. Most of them are partner games. Some are independent activities or more open-ended tasks. The games are introduced always by the teacher. So this is kind of a funny story. When I was first learning bridges, introducing the workplace, usually games are based on speed or skill. And our workplaces are generally based on a deck of cards, a game board, a spinner, maybe the roll of a dice. And so often the children won and I lost, and it was very humbling, but it was also very engaging for them, very motivating for them to play against an adult when they could win, right? So workplaces come with a complete set of materials. So decks of cards are pre-made, ready to go. They're colored, laminated, and ready for teachers to pull out. And we want to provide our teachers with support suggestions for workplaces. So each workplace also provides students practice with a particular skill, but we want the teachers to zero in on student learning in flexible groups, like I mentioned. So we're going to provide an assessment and differentiation chart that will allow teachers to notice, okay, if I see this behavior, this is what I should do. And if I see this behavior, this is what I should do for challenge. So this is super helpful because I usually put the workplace directions and then the guide in a sheet protector so that I could put it in my bin or bucket, and everything was together with the other materials. So if I needed to be out of the classroom and a substitute was taking over my classroom instruction, or if I had a parent volunteer, a foster grandparent sometimes, that they could pick up the directions, pick up the guide, and help support the work that we were doing together. I have to give credit to my Scotts Bluff friends for our sentence frames. So one day when I was visiting a school in Scotts Bluff, the teachers had just gone to an English language conference, and they were practicing using what they were calling sentence stems or sentence frames for the workplaces. And I got very interested in what I saw students doing. So that summer, we partnered with some ELL specialists and developed sentence frames for all of our workplaces. And they serve multiple purposes. They keep track of the directions, like how the game is played, right? But they also help students use the precise language and complete sentences, which are also super important. They are available on our website in English or in Spanish, and so teachers can choose what would be the best opportunity for their students. And again, going back to that vocabulary that I mentioned, keeping track of that cognitive demand, being able to use the right language to explain an idea, that is really going to help our students do the very best they can. So I get really excited about sharing our sentence frames. Thank you, Scotts Bluff teachers. All right, I want to talk a little bit about our digital display materials. So all of our workplaces, all of our student book pages, teacher masters, all of our materials are available digitally on our website. So teachers who are using an interactive whiteboard can project from their board. And again, the students can spin the spinner, roll the dice, flip over a deck of cards or some dominoes. And so if you have an interactive whiteboard, I think that might be the way to go. So how about if you kind of puzzle around the idea of the structure of the unit work, the problems and investigations and the workplaces. And if you have a question or a wondering or a comment that you'd like to share in chat, I'd love to hear from you. So give me some ideas about how you see that problems and investigations and workplaces serving your students. And I see we have someone from Columbus, Ohio. Thanks for joining us. Heather's been using the intervention materials. Great. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. How many of you use centers or small group instruction for meeting the specific needs of your students? So Heather's saying that she has intervention time daily. And of course, you would want to meet with those small groups for that just-in-time learning, right? Great. Anyone else? You can pop something in chat or maybe unmute yourself. Anyone? All right. Well, let's go ahead and go back to our slides. And actually, you know, I think I really want to showcase the digital display. So if it's okay with you, I'll pop in and out so that we can showcase some of these. So Heather joined us from Scottsbluff today. And Heather, can you all see my Bridges Educator site? Is that available to you right now? Can you see the Bridges Educator site, or do I need to do a new share?
No, we can see it.
Okay, super, thank you. So I'm on the Bridges Educator site, and Heather's teaching kindergarten, and let's say she's interested in introducing a workplace from Module 4. So she can go to, now maybe I'll pick Module 3. Oh, I love this game, Heather. I hope that's a good one for you also. So the digital displays allow me to pop the game up. Do you know how sometimes when you're showing the students a game and you're around the carpet and the students keep scooting in because they want to get a little closer? So what I can do when I'm projecting and teaching the game, the workplace game, Beat You to 5, I can start the game by asking the children, what do you see? What do you notice? And they might tell me that they can see a Unifix cube running, and there's 2 over here, or they see a circle. And so I might give them a chance to privately think and then pair share, and I might pull a few sticks so I can get a few friends to share their ideas. And then we're going to go ahead and start to play the game. So I'll spin first. Oh, I have 0. I get 0 cubes. And now I choose a child, and they got 3. So they get to put 3 cubes up on the 5 frame here. And then it's a great time to ask questions like, how many do you have? How many more do you need to make 5? And then students can, again, turn and talk and share or show me on their finger. And then who's winning by how much? And again, because it's based on a spinner, the children can be ahead, right? And they love that they're winning. So here I am, now we're tied, right? Or equal, it's the same as. So now I'll choose a child and they'll come over to the whiteboard and spin. And now they get 1. So how many do you have now? And we show each of the spins in a different color to really break apart that part-whole relationship so children can see those combinations that in fact make 5. Okay, now it's my turn. How many do I need to win? I'm wishing for a 2. Oh, I got a 1, just like you guys. Okay, I got a 1. Okay, now what are you guys hoping for? What are you hoping for? And now they get to spin the spinner. Oh, 0. Okay, now it's my turn. Can I win the game? Well, if I got a 1, I could. Okay. Oh, I got a 2. I can't use a 2, so I lose my turn. Okay, your turn. Oh, a 0. We're not very lucky right now. Okay, I need a 1. Oh, I got a 2 again. I can't use a 2. I just need a 1. Oh, a 0. I keep getting 2s, and you guys keep getting 1s or 0s. Okay, let's see, a 1. Oh, a 3. Too much. A 2. A 0. 1. All right. I think that was your turn. All right. So now the students have 5. And again, I want to ask the students the questions about how many do you have? How do you know? And I can use the text tool or the tool here to show that I had 3 plus 1 plus 1, and that made 5. Okay. And then I can move that equation over to the side to illustrate what I did. I can also use my writing pen to say that Mrs. Hanson had 3 the first turn and only 1. And then for some of my more capable students, I could even introduce an inequality, right? That 4 is less than 5. And so that's a wonderful example of how these workplace games are very engaging and very differentiated. So we also have an opportunity to play on board B, which would work our way up to combinations of 2 5s or making 10. All right, so digital display materials. Super, super great for practice and opportunities for students to play. And this is one of my very favorite quotes by Karen Purvis, who's a research psychologist. And I think we just want to remember how important play is, because it only takes 10 to 20 repetitions of something instead of 400, right? So let's visit a little bit about Number Corner. So we've talked a little bit about the unit work. We talked about the whole group and small group instructional opportunities. And I want to visit a little bit about the third part of the program that is calendar-based, but it's really in a skills program that helps support the work that we're doing in the unit work. So for example, in 4th grade, the fraction experience in Number Corner helps set the stage for the fraction unit of instruction. So the models and the problem-solving opportunities sort of set the stage. The vocabulary is developed during Number Corner. It's sort of like a morning meeting opportunity. So we want to use that high level of questions, and we want to make sure that students have an opportunity to develop both conceptual understanding and procedural fluency. So there's an opportunity for lots of charts that can be displayed around the room. This is an example from kindergarten in October. And of course, your display is going to look a little different depending on your wall space. So some teachers have actually put their Number Corner in a corner, and that is a great area to have kind of like a rocking chair and a carpet, and then students can visualize and access the materials there. So every Number Corner, K-5, has 5 essential workouts, but you don't do all 5 every day. So for example, you might do calendar grid and computational fluency. Another day you might do calendar collector and number line. And so again, there's 5 workouts, but because we're trying to keep that carpet time limited to a reasonable, developmentally appropriate amount, then we're going to limit the number of workouts that you do. In K-5, calendar grid, calendar collector, and computational fluency is found in all grade levels. And then we kind of grow it up for the grades, and days in school in kindergarten and 1st grade is replaced by daily rectangle in 2nd grade. And that helps our 2nd graders understand rows and columns and equal groups, which sets the stage for multiplication. We do some number line work in K2, both the discrete and interval models, and we continue a little bit of that in 3rd grade, but then we also develop a workout called problem strings, which gives children an opportunity to look for those patterns and structure in our number system. So again, about 15-20 minutes of opportunities to target specific skills. You can see here that as we're looking at the chart of target skills, you can see which workout helps support which of our skills in 1st grade. And so I know as a 1st grade teacher, as I'm preparing and planning, I can think about what my class needs this year, and I can adjust the amount of time and energy that I'm spending on our number corner experience. Maybe this year my class needs more time with computational fluency, or maybe next year's class needs more time with calendar collector. So I have an opportunity to kind of use that target skills list to choose the best fit for my students. I mentioned earlier our emphasis on vocabulary. And so if you're thinking about Marzano's research on how do we develop content vocabulary for our students, one of the things we know is we need to provide the term with a non-linguistic representation. And then on the back of these cards, you can see there's a working definition. So every classroom kit comes with a box of word resource cards or vocabulary cards, and teachers will use these cards in Number Corner and also in their unit work. And there are Spanish translations on the Bridges Educator site as well. So we want to make sure that our Spanish dual language immersion classrooms are using the same terms for the mathematical models and ideas across the grade levels. So I think it's very helpful to have these vocabulary cards pre-made. I can tell you years ago, I used to try to create a math word wall, but it was a lot of work. So I want to finish up with a few slides on assessments, just to make sure that you're aware of some of the resources that we have. Every grade level has an assessment guide, which includes like a year-long map, like the one that you see here. The assessment map identifies where the concepts and skills are targeted for mastery. So for example, I might be using an interview, especially in kindergarten and first grade. I might be doing some observation assessments during workplaces. I might pull a work sample, like a portfolio piece. And of course, there's paper pencil tasks and an opportunity for students to also do some self-assessment and reflection. And there are regular formative checkups also that are going to be sort of accumulating throughout the year just to make sure that students are making progress towards the standards. Our grade 2 through 5 has a pre-assessment at the beginning of the unit. And of course, there's post-assessments for grades 1 through 5. So you can see as you're looking at the map that some skills and concepts are expected for mastery later in the year, because at the beginning of the year, we're also building community, reviewing some concepts from last year, and also giving an opportunity for students to make some connections as they go. So for example, solving one-step word problems would be expected for mastery in Unit 4. In the assessment guide, you'll also find a scoring guide, a calibrated scoring guide, and these support teachers looking beyond the correct answer to use of efficient strategies. So if I'm a 4th grade teacher and a child used repeated addition to solve 13 times 12, maybe they came up with the right answer, but adding 13 12 times would not be a very 4th grade appropriate strategy. So they could get 1 point for a correct answer, but they wouldn't get the 2nd point for having a more grade appropriate strategy. And so we're going to help children and teachers appreciate where our instructional goals are going. And of course, if Heather and Maddie and I are all 4th grade teachers, we want to make sure that we're scoring our student work the same way. And this allows the teacher to assess for the depth of knowledge that we're also interested in looking for. So it's not just a recall, but our students able to use strategic thinking. We also provide progress reports for teachers and students and families. And we spaced out the standards in both trimesters and quarters to create progress reports that teachers could use to communicate with families, like at a parent-teacher conference, to give them an idea of what our expectations are, because these are so different than when families were in school. So these are also available in Spanish, so that we can help support our Spanish-speaking families. So now I'm going to take you to our online portal. That's where I was when we were exploring the digital display materials for workplaces. So I'm going to pop back over here and showcase some important resources as that we have on our landing page. So on our home page, currently we have some additional resources and support for this particular school year because it is so unique. We also have a curriculum tab where teachers can access all of their materials. So if I'm teaching 3rd grade, I can access my teacher guide online, so I don't have to take my binder home every day. There's my assessment guide, my teacher master's answer keys, right? Student book and answer keys there, home connection and answer keys. And then there's a folder here for everything related to workplaces, including our sentence frames that I showcased earlier. We also make available all the components. So let's say I was teaching 3rd grade and I inherited somebody's classroom, and let's say there were some things that were missing or damaged, then I could use the component master file to replace any of the bits and pieces. And it's no one's fault, it's just the way of it, right, when we're sharing materials over several years. And here are all of our Spanish translated materials, also on the website here. And there's also a complete set of materials for Number Corner. This is also where our Bridges intervention resources live. So you saw earlier that Heather said she was meeting with some intervention groups, and she might be using a combination of reteaching some workplaces or lessons, and she might also be dabbling in, I would guess, volume 1 to help support students that maybe need a little bit extra to, I don't know, fill in some gaps, right? Sometimes it's a teaching learning gap. So on our curriculum tab, we have lots of resources for teaching, including correlations by standard, scope and sequences here. And then here is where I can also access the display materials that I shared earlier. So every teacher gets a site license. Also principals and math coaches, so that they can access the materials digitally. On our resources tab, we have a curated set of games and books and videos designed to help you enhance your student learning experience. And everything is organized by unit and by module. So as our 1st grade teachers are introducing the unit, here is an overview for families, also in Spanish. So I don't have to create those family newsletters in the evenings. They're already ready to go. So there's also some home learning packets, especially right now as we're in a hybrid or distance learning setting. Those have been super helpful. We also have some digital apps that I'll share in just a little bit. So we're also going to remind you that we have these great sentence frames up here. So again, by unit, by module, these are all organized to help support the learning experience for our students. We also have an implementation tab, and here's where we have a lot of different blogs. Our field teachers have written some great ideas on classroom organization, for example, or maybe working with families, or fact fluency, or English language learners. And so pretty much whatever is on your mind in terms of needing support, we have a great collection of blogs. On the PD Library tab, we have a lot of extra webinars, we have videos, articles, lots of ongoing support for our teachers. And then also on our Getting Started website, we have a collection of webinars on being introduced to either our pre-K or Bridges and Number Corner for K2 and 3-5 teachers. Also a little bit of background on our assessment practices, administration, and intervention also. So very, very helpful. And the final tab over here is for coaches. Well, one of the needs that we identified early on was having everything kind of in one place for coaches. So we created a tab for our coaches to make sure that they had everything that they needed for all the grade levels, kind of one-stop shopping. So I mentioned earlier that the Math Learning Center was a nonprofit, and we were dedicated to math education. And so one of the resources that we've created are these digital apps. So regardless of whether you adopt Bridges or not, these are free and available in a variety of different platforms. So if you are projecting from a computer or an interactive whiteboard, you'll probably open up the web app. If you are using an iPad, you would probably use the Apple app, and then Chromebooks. So if your students are using Chrome, then they might download the app in Chrome. But one of the beautiful things that we can do right now is showcase our apps in a share feature. So for example, this is a number rack, and we use it to make combinations, like show me 3, can you make it 5? How many more to make it 7? I need 2 more. And again, that same writing feature that you saw me use earlier can be used here in this setting. And so it's a great opportunity to use that visual model, that representation, to help students move from concrete materials to thinking about the abstract. So I can add multiple rows on our app, and I need to trash that, so give me just a minute. All right. One of the things I can appreciate about our app is how flexible these models are. So I can use it for combinations of 5 or 10, but I can also use it to help with multiplication. So let's say I was teaching 3rd grade multiplication, and I wanted the students to consider, what do they know about 4 rows of 7? I can build an array very quickly, 4 times 7. And what do you see? What do you notice? So some of my students might notice that they can count by 5s, right? 5, 10, 15, 20, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 20 plus 8 would equal 28. So using that 5 subbase gives students an opportunity to access a 4 times 7 fact, which can be a little tricky sometimes, and an opportunity to see those groups in good chunks. But the cool thing is, if I wanted to build it, I could save the image using our share codes, and then I could give you that code, and if you typed that in to the key, the image that I created on the app would project on your Chromebook or your iPad. So this is a very exciting thing to integrate into our instruction, because that way we're not skipping steps with the value of these visual models. So when you get to the Math Learning Center page, this apps page, it's just Math Learning Center apps. You can see all these apps that now support sharing features. And by the end of the year, the goal is to have all 11 apps be able to share. Has anyone used the apps? Any of the apps? Maybe the GeoBoard app, I think that's the one that's most popular. But again, these are all available regardless of the program that you might be using. They don't require a username or password. And so families can access these apps at home on their devices. So another resource I just want to showcase quickly is the support that we have for families right now. So we have under our home learning tab, we have a resource called Math at Home that would allow me to select my grade level. And let's say I had a first grader and a third grader at home. I could choose one of the sets of activities. And these are just fun family conversations to have, like dominoes, or what can we do with the number 12, or which one doesn't belong, or would you rather. And then we also have a lot of our games, our workplace games that use SAMI model are also available here for our families to access. Again, without a username or password, these are available for everyone. So if you're looking for additional resources to help support your instruction this year, please do visit our Math Learning Center Math at Home page to help provide a little extra support. So I've done most of the talking here, and I've asked both Heather and Maddie to share some of their own experiences with bridges in Scotts Bluff. So how about if I turned it over for them, and then if you have any questions or concerns or wonderings, please chime in the chat. Maddie, can we start with you? You were a fourth grade teacher when Scotts Bluff adopted Bridges, yeah?
Yes, I was. Yeah, I was a fourth grade teacher, and I implemented Bridges as our first year 6 years ago. Am I right, Heather? Did we do that 6 years ago? Okay, okay. That's what I thought. So I taught Bridges for 3 years, and then I am currently as a math content area specialist for K-12 for our district. So I think the biggest thing that I can say about Bridges is just the fostering of the dialogue between the kids. I really enjoyed listening to them, and it wasn't so much as me telling them how to do something, when to do something, and this is the only right way. It was letting them explore and then work together to find the solution to problems. And using the manipulatives obviously was just amazing to watch them work and come up with different ways. I probably learned just as much from them the first few years because they would bring, different solutions to the table and to the class, and I'd be like, I never thought of it that way. So it was pretty neat to hear them talk to each other and to me. Of course, it took a year or two for the kids to get used to it because it was a complete 180 from where we were before. But I've loved it, and I've loved all the resources. And I will have to say, my position this year as the content specialist, I have really enjoyed how much work Bridges has done for our teachers. Is just as far as having all of the workplaces online, because we are a hybrid at Scotts Bluff right now. So I really appreciate the thought that goes into all of their materials, and they really do use teachers to build their materials and think about what teachers are going to need in the classroom. So they definitely haven't gotten away from that. And yeah, Heather, do you have anything to add?
I agree a lot with what Maddie's saying, all the things she said. For me personally, I've spent my whole career in kindergarten, so this is my 23rd year. And so we were about 16 years when we adopted Bridges. And throughout the years, I kind of in my mind, I guess, had like, if I was going to create, what was great for my classroom, what would that look like? And I was at that time designing my own math centers, and I would still go home at night and think, wow, okay, that was a good one, but did I put it in at the right time? Did it align with the standards? And when Bridges came and that was all there, and I knew that it was lined up with standards, that just freed me up to be able to say, yes, this is the way it should be. Also, just like Pia mentioned that play, and I think, you know, as a kindergarten teacher, and I think all grades would agree that that play and touching and getting hands-on is so, so important to learning. And so the fact that they have that opportunity every day, like Maddie said, it kind of lets me be the facilitator of their learning, and they're doing all the work and the talking, and I get to just sit and enjoy that. So as far as the digital resources, we do have intervention time where we, you know, are meeting all the needs of our kids every day. So I love those resources, those digital things that are available. Again, I don't have to sit and try to find things that align with what I'm doing. They're already there and built in. So just so many great things about it. Love it a lot. So.
Mhm.
And would you be okay with visitors? Can people come visit you guys?
Yeah, well now, yes. I don't know what the rules are. We, you know, maybe later in the year, but we've had 2 schools from Nebraska visit us within the last year or 2 years, I believe, and both ended up adopting Bridges just because our teachers did a fabulous job of showcasing, obviously, but answering questions. And I think, you know, we've had it for 6 years, so our teachers have really done a great job. And like Heather said, it's all right there for you. You're not creating everything. You're not second guessing if you're doing things at the right time in the year. And so, yeah, definitely Scottsbluff has open doors for sure. And Heather's had, I think, both schools come visit, and, you know, we're constantly going in and out of the classrooms watching, and our teachers watch each other too. So definitely.
I think that is, I think when Scottsbluff came down to Windsor, Colorado to observe a classroom, I think Jana Mason said it was something about a math magic or something. You know, she saw 5th graders coming up to the document camera at the time and talking about fractions. And she thought, that's what I want for our kids, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's definitely good to see it in action.
Yeah, I think anytime you're shopping for a resource, I think it's super to maybe try out a few lessons and play around with maybe the apps, but then also thinking about going to see students in action, because the math talk that you were describing and the understanding that comes from those using those physical models and materials, I think is powerful.
I think along those lines, you know, just thinking of like my class this year, and just all those things available, just the quick automaticity of like numbers to 5, and how many make 5 and how quick that comes. This little girl that I'm thinking of in my mind was kind of struggling with numbers to 5 recognition and combinations, and, you know, within just a few weeks of being in school, she's already getting that. And so just exciting, really exciting.
And I think you nailed it, because you were talking about multiple experiences in a variety of different settings. And I think you don't know what model is going to click. And so providing a variety of strategies and models then I think helps students find their way. Would you say that too, Maddie, in 4th grade when you were thinking?
Oh, definitely. Yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the kids would, you know, you give them the tools and then they get to pick which way is the most efficient for them. We talk about being efficient a lot. Mm-hmm. And so for different students, it was a different way to do it, whether they understood it the best, but, you know, you just give them all the opportunities and they pick which is the best. And it brings out a lot of learning opportunities for the kids and teaching moments. And some kids who didn't like math before really enjoy it, because it was just a different way of looking at math. It wasn't the memorization piece, it was actually getting to practice it. So I think that was the biggest aha moment for me being the classroom teacher and implementing it for the first time.
I think you're right. I think as we're thinking about the 21st century skills, right, we want our students to be able to be critical thinkers and communicate their understanding. And so just memorizing is not going to get the job done, right? Yeah. I'm going to advance the slides just a little bit because I've had a chance to share most of the information, and I just want to finish up. And Heather and Maddie, I hope you'll stay on and just add a little bit. But through the adoption process, we'll help support your ongoing professional development. So we have a Getting Started workshop, but we're also available for support. So, you know, somebody can't find something or has a particular student that they're puzzling about, then there's a lot of resources that you both mentioned earlier on the Bridges Educator site in the way of videos and implementation guides and blogs. You'll find Heather's blogs on here because she's a veteran kindergarten teacher that shared so many great ideas. And then we also offer events and online courses and conferences to help support your work in the field because we value you as professionals, as educators. So my email is at the top, Pia H for Hansen at mathlearningcenter.org. And I'm just wondering if anyone has any additional questions or wonderings, if you'd like to pop it in chat. Or perhaps our hosts would ask a question on behalf of our audience. Is there anything we haven't addressed that we need to?
I think you've done an excellent job. This is Deb. So were you involved in the word frames or the frameworks that you were
Sentence
working
frames?
with? Yeah, the frames.
Yeah. The sentence frames were a game changer because a lot of times our third, fourth, and fifth graders are not reading at grade level. And so the instructions, even though the game was introduced earlier, the students had trouble following the steps, right? Because they're multi-step. And the sentence frames provided so much support for those students, but then also the level of math talk that Maddie mentioned earlier. So kudos and compliments to Scottsbluff teachers because they're the ones that created the need. And then as a company, we were able to put together those sentence frames.
That's awesome because that is a wonderful strategy for any student to have that math talk conversation. So like I said, I'm proud of my Scottsbluff folks for stepping up and making it better. So we do have a question in the chat. It says, does this program lead easily into a series for sixth grade? This person teaches 4 through 6.
Okay, so there are several standards-based programs that are secondary programs that go 6th through 12th grade. Maddie would be a great person to speak to that because they had several years of Bridges before they chose a middle school program that they're happy with. Maddie, are you still on? Would you be willing to share?
Yep. So at Scottsbluff, we have implemented illustrative mathematics, 6 through 12 actually. So we're in our 3rd year at the middle school and 2nd year at the high school for illustrative. And even though they're different programs, they're very similar. They use the same models, pretty similar models through the elementary, through the middle school, and then obviously onto the high school. Very similar as far as the teacher is more the facilitator. The kids are, the teacher poses problems, the teacher is guiding. So our 6th grade teachers have attested to the smooth transition from Bridges to the middle school with the illustrative that we're using now. So I would say any similar program, definitely it's been a lot more seamless transition for the middle school teachers than before.
Ah, that's great to hear. Nice.
Thank you.
I think we want them to think like mathematicians, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And to have the confidence that you spoke to earlier, right, is just that mathematical, I can do this, instead of the defeating kind of persona that many of our children, they just decide they're not good. And then in middle school, it's really hard to motivate them, right? But when they see themselves as capable, I think it's a good segue.
Very good.
Yeah. Any other questions or wonderings?
Well, thank you so much. I think we all learned a great deal about bridges, and we know who to contact for more information. We really appreciate you taking some time to give us a nice overview. So
I'm excited
so much.
for an opportunity to meet with you and meet with district people. So please stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.